Welcome back to Important Updates, global news without the noise. Subscribe to stay updated. Everybody is looking for stability in global trade, but what happens when a $30 billion relationship is put to the ultimate test? The air in the Prime Minister's office was thick with tension, every breath heavy with anticipation and worry. Outside, the city of Canberra was unusually quiet under the fading evening sky, as if the whole nation was holding its breath. Inside, senior officials gathered in silence, their eyes fixed on the large television screen as the news anchor's voice echoed through the room. The headline was unmistakable, bold red letters flashing across the screen: Beijing to halt key Australian imports. The Prime Minister leaned forward at his desk, his face illuminated by the glow of the screen, absorbing every word with a growing sense of urgency. This wasn't just news, it was a declaration of economic war, a move that would send shockwaves through the heart of the nation. His advisors exchanged grim, worried glances, each of them silently calculating the potential fallout. The warnings had been there for months, buried in reports and memos that now seemed all too prophetic. Diplomatic channels had grown cold, with Chinese state media growing increasingly hostile and official communications reduced to icy formalities. Now the threat was no longer theoretical. It was real, immediate, and impossible to ignore. The anchor began to list the targeted goods: barley, wine, coal, each one representing not just commodities but the livelihoods of thousands of Australian families. Images of bustling ports, sprawling barley fields, and sunlit vineyards flashed on the screen, all now facing an uncertain and precarious future. The message from Beijing was clear and unmistakable. Australia had crossed a line, and there would be consequences. The silence in the room was heavy with anxiety, every official acutely aware of the gravity of the moment. How did it come to this? A partnership built over decades, once celebrated with handshakes and signed agreements, was now unraveling before their eyes. The officials knew this was more than a trade dispute. It was a direct challenge to Australia's sovereignty, its independence, and its future. The decisions made in these tense hours would not just shape policy, they would define the nation for a generation, setting the course for years to come. The Prime Minister finally broke the silence, his voice steady but urgent. Get me the latest figures. I want to know exactly what we're facing, down to the last detail. The room stirred into action, advisors scrambling to gather data and reports, but the sense of crisis lingered, heavy and unyielding. The shockwave from Beijing would ripple through every sector of the economy: agriculture, mining, manufacturing, and beyond, threatening jobs, businesses, and entire communities. Australia, long a beneficiary of China's meteoric rise, now faced the harsh reality of its economic dependence, the risks of putting too many eggs in one basket suddenly all too clear. The comfortable assumptions of the past, of endless growth and stable partnerships, were gone, replaced by uncertainty and fear. In their place stood a harsh new reality, one that demanded resilience, adaptation, and difficult choices. The nation stood at a crossroads, its future uncertain, its path forward fraught with challenge, but also, perhaps, with opportunity for renewal and change. $30 billion, an almost unimaginable sum, representing not just numbers on a balance sheet, but the livelihoods and dreams of countless Australians. This is what's at stake. It's the value of a partnership that has shaped Australia's economy for a generation, now hanging in the balance. That's the value of Australian exports to China, now under threat, a figure that underscores just how deeply the two nations are connected through trade. For decades, Australian businesses, from mining giants to family vineyards, from bustling factories to small farms, built their futures on China's insatiable demand for resources and goods. Iron ore, coal, wine, and more fueled a boom that funded schools, hospitals, and infrastructure, transforming cities and rural towns alike. The prosperity touched nearly every corner of the country. The two economies became deeply intertwined, their fortunes rising and falling together, creating a sense of shared destiny. China is Australia's largest trading partner by far, buying more than the next 4 partners combined. No other nation comes close to matching this economic influence. This concentration brought prosperity, but also hidden vulnerability, a risk that many overlooked in the good times. Few questioned the wisdom of relying so heavily on one market, until now, as the consequences of that dependence become painfully clear. The $30 billion at risk isn't just a number on a page, it represents real businesses, real communities, and real futures. It means jobs lost, crops unsold, mining towns in limbo, families facing uncertainty, and entire regions bracing for impact. The economic shock could push Australia into recession, threatening the stability and growth that so many have come to rely on. This is the leverage Beijing now wields, a powerful economic weapon forged from years of mutual prosperity, now turned into a tool of pressure and influence. The relationship that once seemed unbreakable is now a source of national anxiety, sparking debate in parliament and concern in households across the country. The question, can Australia withstand the pressure, or will it bend? The nation stands at a crossroads, forced to make difficult choices about its future. The answer will shape the nation's future, determining not just economic outcomes, but the very identity and resilience of Australia itself. And the world is watching, waiting to see how Australia responds to this defining moment in its history. At the heart of the Australia-China trade relationship lies a single crucial commodity: iron ore. This raw material is the foundation of modern industry, and it's the lifeblood of both nations' economies. Australia stands as the world's top exporter of iron ore, and China is by far its biggest and most important customer, relying on these shipments to fuel its rapid urbanization and industrial growth. Massive mines in Western Australia operate around the clock, day and night, sending billions of dollars worth of ore across the sea to Chinese steel mills, where it's transformed into the buildings, bridges, and infrastructure of tomorrow. This trade has become the backbone of both economies, creating jobs, driving investment, and linking the two countries in a web of mutual dependence. But the relationship goes far beyond iron ore. Australia also supplies China with vast quantities of coal, natural gas, and a diverse range of agricultural products, each playing a vital role in China's development. Australian beef, barley, and wine are especially prized in China, where they're seen as symbols of quality and luxury, gracing dinner tables and celebrations across the country. Seafood, like the coveted rock lobster, has become a luxury item in Chinese markets and restaurants, fetching high prices and supporting entire coastal communities back in Australia. For many Australian farmers and producers, the Chinese market represented a golden opportunity, one that promised growth, prosperity, and a secure future for their families and businesses. The relationship isn't just about goods. It extends deeply into services, especially education and tourism, which have become pillars of Australia's economy. Chinese students and tourists have brought billions of dollars into the country, enriching Australian cities, supporting universities, and fostering cultural exchange between the two nations. These deep economic ties made the current breakdown in relations all the more painful, as businesses and communities feel the impact of lost opportunities and uncertainty. What once seemed like a perfect match, two economies complementing each other, has now become a source of vulnerability and concern for both sides. The question now looms large. Can these powerful economic bonds survive the political storms ahead, or will they unravel under the weight of growing tensions? The shift from partner to adversary was gradual, then sudden. Australia tried to balance its US alliance with deepening economic ties to China. For years it worked, but as China grew more assertive, the space for neutrality shrank. Beijing began demanding political alignment from its economic partners. Australia's ban on Huawei, new foreign interference laws, and criticism of China's human rights record all raised tensions. The breaking point: Australia's call for a COVID-19 origins inquiry. Beijing saw it as a hostile act. The response was swift: tariffs, bans, and a list of grievances. The message: economic ties now come with political strings. The era of separating business from politics was over. Australia faced a stark choice: change its stance or pay the price. The partnership had become a battleground. The world took notice. China's retaliation wasn't military, it was economic. Beijing targeted Australian exports with tariffs and unofficial bans. Barley and wine faced crippling tariffs. Coal shipments were stranded in ports, lobsters died in customs, and power plants were told to stop buying Australian goods. These moves were calculated to inflict pain on key industries and regions. The goal: pressure Australia's government through domestic discontent. Economic coercion had become a political weapon. Australia now faces a defining choice. The old world, prosperity without political cost, is gone. One path, stand firm, accept economic pain, and defend sovereignty. The other, accommodate Beijing, restore trade, but risk compromising core values. A middle path seems elusive. China's demands touch on fundamental freedoms. The choice is becoming binary. Resist or submit. The world is watching how Australia responds. The outcome will set a precedent for others facing similar pressure. The stakes are high, not just for the economy but for national identity. Australia's decision will echo far beyond its borders. The crossroads is here. Resistance means hardship. The government would need to support affected industries and workers. Diversification is key, finding new markets, forging new trade deals. No single market can replace China, but spreading risk is essential. Strengthening alliances with other democracies is vital. A united front can blunt Beijing's tactics. This path tests national character. Are some principles not for sale? The government must explain why sacrifice is necessary. It's a gamble, short-term pain for long-term sovereignty. The outcome will define Australia's future. The world will judge its resolve. Accommodation offers a tempting return to prosperity. It would mean softening criticism, making concessions, and restoring trade. The economic relief would be immediate, tariffs lifted, markets reopened. For many, this would feel like a return to normal, but the cost is high. It signals that economic coercion works. Australia could become a client state, its policies shaped by fear of Beijing's reaction. Each new disagreement could bring fresh threats. The relationship would be based on compliance, not respect. Short-term gain could mean long-term loss of independence. The choice is clear, but the consequences are profound. Australia must weigh prosperity against principle. The world is watching which path it takes. Australia's dilemma is global. Many nations face the same challenge as China's power grows. Australia is a test case for how middle powers can respond. If it resists and succeeds, it sets a model for others. If it capitulates, it emboldens Beijing's tactics. The outcome could reshape alliances and global rules. Can countries trade with China without sacrificing sovereignty? Australia stands on the front line of this new contest. Its choice will echo worldwide. The future of the international order is at stake. The world waits for Australia's answer.